Good evening, everybody. I call this meeting of the Central Florida Facilitators Toastmasters Club 9,958 to order. Thank you all for being here tonight. If you have one of these, hey Sarah, please take the time to shut it to airplane mode or completely off. Our second speaker is going to be very awesome. We don't want to have any interruptions. We have both a male and female guest this evening, which Charlie will be going over with. But important piece of information. If you find nature calling you this evening, please go out the last door there, hang an immediate left, and then hang an immediate left again. And down that hall are the bathrooms. They're really easy to find. Very, very close. So left, bathrooms will be down on the right. At Toastmasters, we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Through this mission, each Toastmaster gains an understanding of the club's purpose, and the organization as a whole benefits from a shared set of values and goals. Please help me welcome our thought and pledge leader for this evening. And I'm going to double dip. We always have really cutesy thoughts each week, but I thought the thought this week is going to be a strategy. Toastmasters, sometimes it takes time to improve. The second you hear this thought, your life is instantaneously going to be better. I'm not kidding, if you decide to engage. So if you want to take some notes, go ahead. You don't have to raise your hand, but raise your hand if you would like to have a drama-free life. If you don't have your hand up, you're a liar. So here it is, the thought based on that. Just because some people are fueled by drama doesn't mean you need to attend the performance that comes to us from the great Cheryl Richardson. Just because some people are fueled by drama doesn't mean you need to attend the performance. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please give a warm round of applause as I introduce our president, Charles Bombalier, to the lectern.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Good evening. I have one good news. Most of our members have paid their dues through the help of all the Toastmasters, including Susan, that helped me a lot, and Alan, and Toni.
So how many members do we have?
I just texted Alan, if he's on his way, because he has the record, but I think we got like 20 already. Moving right along, we're honored to have two guests here tonight.
3?
Tamar, Lace,
Yes.
would you stand up and just give us 30 seconds on what brought you here? How did you find us?
Good evening, everyone. Like you said, my name is Tamar Blaze. I've been looking for Toastmasters for a long time to improve my speaking skills, to improve just my presentation skills as well. I'm a trainer for a health industry, so I train a lot, so I just wanted to improve on me, so when I present, so I can do well.
Well, thank you. And Mr. Rob Segali.
Yes.
Please stand up and tell us how you found us.
All Toastmasters, not a guest. I'm an experienced Toastmaster from Minneapolis. I've been on the market before. And I dropped out of Toastmasters to focus on the business for a while. Now I come back to Toastmasters, retired, living in Melbourne. I communicated all the way over here to be with you tonight, to see if I could stand the rigors of traveling back and forth and getting back to Melbourne in a presentable hour. See how that would work out for me. So we'll let you know later.
Thank you. That's the sign of a leader. Oh, John,
No.
I'm sorry, I don't know your name, man.
I'm Glenn Stefan.
Would you tell us how you found us? I know that you helped.
I'm a brother to John.
That's how you found us.
And the other young man up there.
And this young man over
Yeah,
here, in the pink shirt.
Right, makes us go there.
That's right.
Thank you. You know, since you're gonna accompany him all the time here, you ought to think about joining. There's some food for thought there. Tonight, we have a special Native American that wants to give us an educational moment. Please help me welcome Red Squirrel.
Thank you, Charlie. How is everyone doing today?
How?
Ralph will try to get you out of here in a respectable order. I placed on the tables some printouts of the District 84 website information. If you don't have one in front of you, don't panic, okay? I found this thing called the interweb, and all of this stuff is available online at toastmastersd84.org. How many of you guys saw that movie, The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, with John Travolta? Okay, I don't want us to be boys and girls in a plastic bubble, so I encourage everyone to go out and visit one of these clubs listed on this page as part of the ambassador program. Our district is made up of 8 divisions. Each division has at least 5 or 6, or I should say has 5 or 6 areas. Our division has 6 actually. So there is a plethora of organizations out there meeting at all various times of the week and of the day, so you can find one to go and visit. The ambassador forms are online, print it off, and you can get credit for visiting another club. So if you don't have any of these, if you don't have this and you want information, I encourage you to visit toastmastersd84.org to answer all the questions you might have. Now I'm going to have to call our president back up because he probably has the intro for Chief Roy. So I'm going to bring back Charlie Bombalier.
To lead us in tonight's agenda, we have another Native American. Hailing from Fairfax, Virginia, our Toastmaster this evening is a mixed breed of German, English, Swedish, and Cherokee Indian. While he has always been proud of his American Indian heritage, he doesn't know anything about it. First graders learning about Thanksgiving probably know more about Native Americans than this poor guy. As a celebration of heritage, please help me welcome Toastmasters Roy Whittick.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Special welcome to our guests. Tomorrow, I present conferences, which is why I joined Toastmasters. And I've improved from very poor, and I'm now proudly a poor presenter, and I'm on my way up. So it's a great place to learn. I've been here for about 6 months, and I think it's done wonders for me. So welcome, and Ralph, welcome to you as well.
Thank you.
I think you're going to find our club much more superior to any other clubs out in Melbourne.
There only is one. And that only meets 3 times a month.
Hopefully we can do something here. So let me get started. Many thousands of years ago, before Columbus' ships landed in Bahamas, before Christ was born, a different group of people discovered America. The nomadic ancestors of modern Native Americans who hiked over a land bridge known as the Bering Strait from Asia to what is now Alaska, Sarah country, more than 12,000 years ago. In fact, by the time European adventurers arrived in the 15th century, scholars estimate more than 50 million people already lived in the Americas. Of these, about 10 million lived in the area of what is known now as the United States. So when you think of Native Americans, what's the first thing that comes to your mind, Susan?
Long past, a long time ago.
Long past.
It's-
Yeah, for me it was Pocahontas, Thanksgiving, Florida State Seminoles, Washington Redskins, and I have Cherokee in me. It's sad. For me, after I was thinking about it, it's really an unknown, sad story of forgotten people, quite frankly. An entire continent of people who were wiped out by European and American colonial imperialism. So I have both American Indian and European descent, so I tend to be neutral on the topic, but I do find the story pretty fascinating. As America's first settlers, the story of Native Americans is truly amazing and often overlooked part of American history. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into our functionaries. First, we have our grammarian, Lynn Ayers, and we have a word of the day too, by the way, Lynn.
Oh.
We don't have Lynn.
We don't have Lynn.
Oh,
Oh.
Here we go, Emma.
Oh, what? No. Oh, got it.
Does Emma want to do it?
Yeah.
That is
Here's
good.
all right, so we have a change in the agenda. Evan is stepping in for grammarian.
Okay, today's word is nefarious. Sorry, I keep on thinking nefarious, nefarious. It's told differently. It's called. The definition is detestable, heinously, or impiously wicked. An example for this is he then committed a nefarious act. He cut off a portion of the ragged little boy's finger because the child is doing the crust of bread. And as grammarian today, I have chosen the word today, which is nefarious, as I previously
All
stated.
right, fairness. Got it.
I'll keep track of those who use the word of the day. I do believe the fine is 25 cents for anybody who does not use the word of the day today. But those who haven't given their icebreaker speech or guess, not fine. I will listen for colorful imagery and exceptional use of vocabulary and grammar. At the end of the meeting, I'll report on grammar usage and suggest where I see improvements can be made. Thank you.
Thanks for filling in there, Emma. Next, move into our all counter, Susan Morgan.
In order to improve the quality of our speech, the odd counter's job is to make us aware of disruptive audible crutches, such as and no, and double clutches, which is the repetition of a word while the speaker searches for their next thought. I will also note sentences strung together with bridge words, such as and, so, or like, and we'll give a report at the end of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Our timer is known to be nefarious. But we'll let her give it a shot tonight anyways. Sarah Hunt.
So the timer will time the speeches, the table topics, and the evaluations. So tonight, Jonathan and Toni are speaking, and they both have required times of 5 to 7 minutes. Let me see here. Speakers must speak no less than 30 seconds under their range minimum and not more than 30 seconds over their range maximum. So green light at range minimum, yellow light mid-range, and red light at range maximum. Now for table topics, speakers must speak at least 1 minute and no more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So this green light will come on at 1 minute, yellow at 1.5 minutes, and red lights 2 minutes. The evaluations, evaluators must speak a minimum of 1 minute, 30 seconds, and a maximum range of 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So the green light comes on at 2 minutes, yellow light at 2.5 minutes, and the red at 3. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, at one time, there were literally hundreds of tribes of Native Americans living within the U.S. Each tribe had its own culture and lifestyle, and each one of the women, men and children, all played an important role. I found this very interesting. Women, surprisingly, dominate the role in Native American lifestyles, which is quite the opposite of it says Europeans on here, so we'll go with that. Quite the opposite of Europeans. The homes, tools, land, and weapons belonged to the women, and the men who married them actually joined the wife's family, instead of vice versa. Women's daughters usually received the parents' property, and they often worked in the field and built the houses. Native American men had different roles depending on their tribe, but were often hunters and gatherers, shockingly. The men were also responsible for protecting the safety of the tribe. Men taught the children how to hunt and were major players within the tribal governments. They served as chief and conducted ceremonies as well. Now let's move into the fun part of the meeting. We'll go ahead and kick off our prepared speeches. Our first speaker this evening was recently queried on what he thought mankind's greatest problem was. Here to share with you the answer he gave, and hopefully open your hearts and your minds, is Jonathan Carson Dunn.
It was 2012, and I was sitting on the couch at my counselor's office. If you wonder why I was at a counselor's office, I was undergoing and battling some really tough times in my life. Some times I really had never even dreamed about. Relationship woes. My wife, Stacy, was engaged in some nefariousness. Really a lot of things that, a lot of questions I couldn't answer myself. So I went to a pro. I had led a very jaded life. My parents were Ward and June Cleaver. I had not seen a lot. And one of the very first things my counselor did was he had me sit on the couch and he had me put my fingers around my eyes, like so. And the reason he did that is he was trying to teach me that I could only see what I could see. And he gradually had me move my hands out to where I could see the whole room. Right now I can only see Roy and a few select others as my hands are out. I can see everyone in the room. What he was trying to drive home was that I had an insane amount of judgment in my life. Judgment about things that I had never experienced. And he was trying to open my eyes up to be able to look at things differently. And I share with you that little story because I want you to think about what I'm going to share with you tonight in a different light than what the media usually portrays. We only know what we know. Consider this. The other day I actually happened to have the news on, and I heard how wonderful the economy was doing. The stock market, this, that, or the other. Of course, it was a Democratic network that was portraying how great that was. And before all you Republicans in the room lie, I won't lie, I heard the same thing from them in 2008. And I want you to think about what a volatile world we live in. And what should we really call the economy? I want you to think about your own lives, and I want to share with you another story from a book that was very transformational in my life. Wayne Dyer, he recently passed away. He's considered to be one of the foremost thought leaders of the world. In this book, The Shift, which I would encourage each and every one of you to get, he shares a story about something that happened in 2001 called 9/11. When many of the passengers on those airplanes knew they weren't going to make it back to the airport. They attempted, and people in the World Trade Centers, they attempted to make calls to their loved ones and let them know how much they loved them. They didn't worry about if their makeup was just right. They didn't call their stockbroker to buy low, sell high. They didn't call the banker to find out how much money they had in the bank. They didn't call the lawn guy to make sure he had the lawn just right. They called people to tell them how much they loved them. It was in that last moments of their life, and I'm not saying they figured it out at that very moment. They may have very well known all along, but they understood at a very heightened sense how important love was. And when I think about hearing how great the economy was, I went to the Mothers Against Drunk Driving website and a few others that I'm going to reference this evening. And I'm going to ask the timer right now to have 30 seconds. And if in this room right now, you can have 30 seconds of just complete silence, click the red light on once it's been 30 seconds. Ten kids worldwide just died of starvation. Are you hungry? 10 kids just died of starvation. A lot of us in the room think we have this worthless college degree, but no, worldwide, less than 10% actually get educated. Alcohol-related deaths since January 1st, 2015. 75,735. But people need to drink to be free. They need to drink to loosen up. There's been 232,000 deaths by obesity. Yet every infomercial you see promises some magic pill that people suck up by the millions. People killed in DUIs who weren't the drunk ones. 25,606. Drug deaths, including prescriptions, 31,000. Abortion deaths, 827,000. And I won't pick on this topic, but guns come in at 8,705. So might we not look like hypocrites and think of banning some of the other things? Wealthy, 1%. Immigrant crisis, the Joneses, tall buildings, 95 million people in the United States have quit trying to work. And oh yeah, antidepressant usage is up 400%. Did I mention how great the economy is and what a lot of those things have in common? One of mankind's greatest problems. We try to abdicate ourselves from responsibility instead of being victors. Mr. Toastmaster.
1 minute on the clock, please. Madam Timer. Thank you. Toni's mom has been in an assisted living facility for over 9 years. She resides at the Atria at Lake Forest in room 325. There have been many crisis events over that time, and Toni is going to share a recent event. Toni's mom, May, who many of you may have met and have heard her speeches in Toastmasters, is currently 98 years old. Toni is speaking from the Basic Communication Manual, Project 6, Vocal Variety. Her objectives are the following. Use voice, volume, pitch, rate, and quality to reflect and add meaning and interest to your message. Use pauses to enhance your message. Use vocal variety smoothly and naturally. Speaking on the subject, Crisis in Room 325, please welcome Toni Gittles.
The biggest challenge of caregiving is that you can't always be in or maintain control of the situation. No matter how organized you are, no matter how smart you are, no matter how much and how frequently you communicate with doctors, nurses, and caregivers, even when you think you're in control, nefarious things happen. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. On Wednesday, September 16th, as I was packing my bag for this Toastmaster meeting, the phone rang. It was my mother. For 11 years, ever since I became my mom's caregiver, every time my mother called, I have this edge of anticipation that the worst has happened. And actually, the worst isn't her dying. After all, she is 98 years old, and she's lived a wonderful, good, long life. The worst isn't death. The worst is a crisis. A trip to the emergency room, a hospital stay, a surgery, which she did have this year. I picked up the phone. Mom, hi, you okay? The voice on the other end of the phone sounded strange, like a frightened little girl. Toni! Toni, is that you? God, I hate that scratchy voice. I need you to come over. I'm afraid to be alone. Mom, going to Toastmasters. I'll see you later. Toni! Please come now. I finally got the message. She really needed me to come over. Dutiful daughter did the right thing. In my mind, I was thinking, however, another evening ruined. But I get it. Truly I do. I'm her rock. I'm her protector. She feels safe and less afraid when I'm there. Jasmine, our Maltese dog, always calms her down and makes her happy. The doggie would come with me. I arrived at room 325 at 6:30 p.m. and was greeted with a huge smile. All of a sudden, she wasn't whiny. Just seeing the two most important people in her life turned her into a happy woman. We did talk about her fear, her pain, the horrible year with her health that she's had, and why she was so upset. She played huggy kissy with Jasmine, and it appeared the evening was a success. Yes. The med tech came in at 10 p.m. to give Mom her bedtime medications. Then the caregiver came in to get her ready for bed. Then the phone rang. Okay, it's 10:30. Who's calling now? Caller ID indicated it was Jennifer, the Atria Director of Nursing. Okay, not good. Hello, Jennifer? Toni, they told me you were still with your mom. I have something to tell you. Okay, well, let's have it. The med tech gave your mom the wrong medications. They were for another resident. I personally called your mom's doctor. I just got off the phone with him when we were told of the error. And he wasn't too concerned, except for the Seroquel. The conversation continued and she wasn't giving me the information I wanted. Jennifer, exactly how much Seroquel did she get? Twice the amount? 400 milligrams. 400 milligrams! Her dose is 50 milligrams. What do we do? Are we going to the emergency room? Talk to me. The doctor preferred to keep her at home. Pumping her stomach, not a fun thing. The effect would be sedation. I'm like, okay, she needs a good night's rest. The conversation continued. Toni, you don't understand. She could sleep for 24 hours or more. Now, what, am I supposed to sit here with her until she wakes up? No, we'll take care of her, Toni. You can go home, don't worry. Mom was actually already on hospice care with Vitas Home Health because of a prior crisis. So, what they did was call Vitas, and Vitas was sending a nurse. She was going to be considered under crisis nursing care. 24 hours a day, she would have a nurse. And Atria would continue to oversee and monitor her health. That was my Wednesday evening 3 weeks ago. But it certainly wasn't over yet. It was just the beginning. The next day, Thursday, I called every few hours. The nurse was there. Always the same answer. She's still asleep. She's still asleep. She's still asleep. Finally, I went over there at 4:30 on Thursday. At this point, she had been asleep 18 hours. I put the dog on her bed. I shook her. May, wake up! May, wake up! She aroused. She opened her eyes. She petted the dog. She smiled at me. She went back to bed. Her doctor made a house call that night at 9:30. Been asleep for 23 hours now. Was able to arouse her a little. He was upset. Still sleeping! May, wake up! May, wake up! She woke up. Get her some water. Get her something to eat. Well, that was fun. We did. She went back to sleep for another 10 hours. She slept 33 hours. Okay, that was the beginning of a 7-day ordeal. She's okay now. During the week, I consulted my attorney about a possible lawsuit. They said, don't do that. I did end up getting $2,400 compensation, which is half of her rent and medical care. The crisis in room 325 was over. However, I am still on 24/7 call for the next crisis. Mr. Toastmaster.
1 minute on the clock, please. Everybody can make some comments for Toni, and I'm going to timer's report here in just a second.
That qualifies for a humorous speech, right?
It was funnier than John's.
Yeah.
You get a timer's report, please, Sarah.
Jonathan spoke 6 minutes and 50 seconds and qualifies. Toni spoke 7 minutes and 36 seconds and qualifies. So both qualify.
36.
7:36? Oh, really, no. That's not right.
Yes.
7? Yeah, I guess it was. There you go. Sorry about that. I was 38. So Jonathan, you qualify? Thank you.
Yes.
So I'm sorry, so who was disqualified? Toni was
I
disqualified?
guess you're going to go 30 seconds after 7. Not
7:30.
I was thinking it would be 8:36. Okay.
Okay, so she was
6
at 36.
seconds too late.
Yes, I know. Okay, keep going.
Did you have the lights at the right time?
Yeah, I did do the lights right.
Yeah.
Another crisis.
How nefarious, Tony.
Small one, a teeny little crisis.
Crisis at
Not a
Central
crisis.
Florida Facilitators
No,
Club,
Steven.
9958.
I think I did. I put the green on a 5, 6 was orange, and 7 was. Is that right?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay,
You did-
mine.
Yeah, I saw the red.
Seeing red.
All right, moving along, I have some fascinating Native American history for you. From the 16th to 19th centuries, the population of Indians sharply declined from epidemic disease brought from Europe, violence and warfare at the hands of European explorers and American settlers, as well as war between tribes and even intermarriage. Most mainstream scholars believe epidemic disease was the overwhelming cause of the population decline of the Native Americans because of their lack of immunity to the new diseases brought over from Europe. For example, chickenpox and measles were among the most deadly. There are a number of documented cases where diseases were deliberately spread among Native Americans as a form of biological warfare. Really interesting. The most well-known example occurred in 1763 when Sir Geoffrey Amherst, Commander-in-Chief of the British Army, wrote praising the use of smallpox-infected blankets to extirpate the Indian race. But no doubt, a large contributing factor to the sharp decrease in population was attributed to armed conflicts. In the United States, throughout the 19th century, there was generally referred to as the Indian Wars. If you think back to 5th grade, the Indian Wars. In the 1830s, President Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act of 1830, a policy relocating Indians from their homelands to Indian Territory, which resulted in the Trail of Tears, 6th grade. In July 1845, the New York newspaper editor John O'Sullivan coined the phrase manifest destiny as the design of Providence supporting the territorial expansion of the United States. Manifest destiny had serious consequences for Native Americans since continental expansion for the U.S. took place at the cost of those who occupied the land. On June 2nd, 1924, President Calvin Coolidge signed the Indian Citizenship Act, which made all Native Americans born in the U.S. and its territories American citizens. Prior to the passage of the Act, nearly 2/3 of the Native Americans had already become American citizens. Something like that might be coming around the corner here if the right person doesn't get elected, Charles.
Maybe.
All right, transitioning into table topics. For our guest, I'll let Stephen elaborate on this a little bit more, but table topics are kind of an impromptu speech where he throws out a question that nobody knows what the question is and just randomly calls on somebody. And you have to think quick on your feet and get up and give us a response in about 1 to 2 minutes. So I'll let Stephen elaborate on that. So transitioning in the table topics section, the Morgan family rumor is that there is Indian blood somewhere in their history. Like Obama's birth certificate, no documentation. But our table topics master has Indians on his mind and he's out for blood. Please welcome advanced Toastmaster Gold, Stephen Morgan.
Need a lesson on how to give introductions. Well, Roy graciously left me to explain what table topics is now that he's already explained it to you. So that you have an understanding of what's already coming. always explaining things and then handing off. With table topics, the idea is to work on our extemporaneous speaking, speaking off the cuff. The opportunity to gain from this is that you get to work on those skills that you will find opportunities to use. It has come most often to me in job interviews. You don't know what questions will pop up. You want to be ready to answer them fairly quickly. It can happen in other cases where you suddenly find yourself talking to somebody, weren't expecting it, getting a curious question from out of nowhere. Even more fun if you find yourself getting interviewed on the radio or on television. It comes in handy, especially when you need to explain things to your spouse once upon a time.
Or if you're a presidential candidate.
No, I think those are quite well scripted out by now. I have some questions here. I tried to follow the theme. I'm going to be providing some, choosing on some people. Our guests, you're welcome to participate if you wish. I'll let you see a few first. Since we had our theme of Native Americans from our nefarious Toastmaster, we have gained much from them as well, even within our own culture and history, even as we may have done much more harm to them. A few interesting tidbits, the wisdom that we may gain from them. One good piece of wisdom. When you were born, you cried and the world rejoiced. Live your life so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice. How do you encounter and intend to do that with your own life? We'll start with Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. How is the world going to cry when I leave? I can tell you right now, my parents have been crying for 48 years. So 2 down is 6,999,998 to go. I don't know any Native Americans other than Elizabeth Warren, but I must say, the one thing about the Native American culture that I've learned is the way they respect the earth and the surroundings. And I plan to try to do that and be as eco-friendly as possible as I can. And be a mentor and a role model to the fine, outstanding Toastmasters here as a start. And then move that out to the grander scale, be a role model for my kids. I don't know if anybody's going to cry when I die. A lot of people might laugh, hopefully, because I won't write my own eulogy. Other than that, I just try to make a good impression. I don't want to hurt anybody, and I don't want anybody to hurt me. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics.
As mentioned before, referring to the Washington Redskins football team, the term Redskin is actually, the meaning comes from the bounty that was paid for the scalps of Indians killed, which has since been termed very pejorative, a hate term, which is why the trademark has been revoked and the team is not able to defend it anymore as a trademark, and the pressure has been mounting. So how are you going to convince the owners to change that, Charlie?
Mr. Table Topic Master, I'm not. I think it is an Obama administration ridiculous BS to change a name that's been around for years and years and years and hurts no one. In fact, they made a survey not long ago, probably sometime last year, and most of the Indians were not offended by it. It's the political correctness that we are being put through to correct everything that the liberal-minded people don't want to face. And that's reality. And quite frankly, I'm really quite sick of this baloney. Yesterday, there was a time that, I forget what state it was, but the principal canceled American Pride Day. And thank God that some of the kids decided that enough was enough, and they all came in red, white, and blue. And I was very proud of America at that moment. Thank you, Mr. Tabletop Master.
Sacagawea led Lewis and Clark across the continent during their exploration that Thomas Jefferson asked them to do to scout out what our new territory was that they bought from the French. What have you found in your explorations that we should all be willing to learn from as well? John, would you be willing to do that one?
No, thank you.
Susan?
Can you repeat the question?
What have you found in your explorations we should all learn from?
I think that we should be more open with people, be more honest, be more loving, especially loving. I think that love has a lot to do with the world going around. And I think being respectful to people, I've learned that in my life. It gets me where I need to go. I'm respectful and kind to people, and I get a response from that. And I think that that means I should continue that. That's all I've got for you tonight, Mr. Tabletop Master.
Would any of our guests like to take on one? You be willing? All right. It is better to have less thunder in the hand and more, sorry, it is better to have less thunder in the mouth and more lightning in the hand.
Mr. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests. I am reminded of a president who said better to carry go around with a
Big stick.
yeah, Teddy Roosevelt. And I actually think of that as probably about the same way to think about subject you just introduced, Mr. Topics Master.
Oh, I still have time, by the way. Well, since you seem to enjoy playing with the political candidates out there, what would their nature Indian names be, Jonathan?
Mr. Tabletop Master, would you mind just repeating that one more time, please?
Since you seem to love having fun with the political candidates, what would their Indian nature names be?
Whew! Thank you, Mr. Tabletop Master. And in honor of Charles Baudelaire, I'm going to do my best to not be, well, gosh, this is a struggle here. We got some guests here that we want to stick around, but I'll try to not be, oh, God, why did you have to pick me? How nefarious.
Says you laughed the loudest.
We'll leave names out of it, like specific names, but the first one that comes to mind, in 2008, I wanted to believe the bill of goods that I was being sold. I wanted to believe more than anyone else. I wanted to be able to stick my foot in my mouth and say, I was wrong. And I'll be the first to ever do that. But I would call perhaps the current person Saka Obama. I didn't get too many laughs. For the guests, when you're standing up here and you try to say something funny and there's no laughs, it's pretty much up there with the worst thing. It's I need to go back to the counselor table again.
You need to give a second of bummer to before him.
And with that said, which is Steven's favorite line, I'm going to be like Mark on his first one and say, the green light's on. Thank you, Mr. Tabletop.
Personally, I had the idea of one being speaks without thought,
Yeah.
another one being smiling sword. Just takes a little bit of imagination, does it not?
Yes.
The Native Americans did invent many things on their own as well. The most interesting ones probably were the weapons, the adze and the atlatl, if you've ever seen any of those. The adze is kind of like an axe where you've shifted the handle sideways, or the blade sideways. The atlatl is actually kind of like a dart, a spear of sorts, which you throw from a little bucket, almost sorts. Very interesting things that they can gain. And yet, they may not be done. There are existing tribes essentially cut off from civilization still in existence. Not in North America, but there are some in South America in the Amazon basin, and there is at least one on an island near India. If you were to have the opportunity, what would you find to be the most beneficial thing for yourself to live in such a primitive society, having experienced today's modern society? Roy? What would you find most beneficial living in one of those primitive societies?
First and foremost, it would be fantastic to not have one of these. Constantly check your email, checking your whatever, playing games, playing apps, whatever people do. I know when I go on vacation, I can't even relax for a full day without checking my phone and seeing what's going on with the news or emails or whatever, stocks, whatever. So that's the first thing, is to be able to just relax and not have all that noise around you, all those distractions. And your goal is to enjoy nature. The Indians love nature, they're one with nature. To enjoy and cherish your family and just spend time with them day in and day out. And just focus on the basics of life and not worry about all the material things. We have a great life with technology and all the advances that we have available to us, but it's a really interesting and intriguing concept to just get back to the basics, which unfortunately we don't have that luxury today. So I would say, just first and foremost, just peace. Peace with yourself, peace with nature, spending time and cherishing your family. Just back to basics.
Any other guests wish to take on one? No. Well then. He who has 1 foot in the canoe and 1 foot on the shore is going to fall in the river. What does that explain your experience, Emma? He who has 1 foot in the canoe and 1 foot on the shore is going to fall in the river.
I actually read that one because of a mistake that we made today. I probably went the same site you did. Well, yeah, if you have 1 foot and each in two different boats, they're probably going to be going in different directions. Most likely drifting apart. And that will make you fall in the river. Well, falling in the river is not exactly a good thing, especially if it gets really cold. I do not like cold, honestly. Geez. Well, I do believe I have fallen off the boat at one point. Maybe my mom can say for sure, but I'm not sure.
You jumped off the boat.
I did? Well, yeah, I know I didn't jump off one. That was on purpose. I never really fell. Yeah,
One more thing that the Native Americans did give us that you should be well aware of with our own history is that in World War II, one of the biggest efforts that were going on was the way to keep our communications from being understood and when they got intercepted by the opposition. In our case, we were worried about the Japanese, and they were quite good at breaking code. So the military got the idea, let's go to some of the Native American tribes, which the Japanese would therefore have no access to and no understanding of their language, and have them invent the code we will use to communicate. Those Indians were brought into the U.S. Army. They were deployed overseas. They became our code breakers. We kept the Japanese from understanding what we were doing. And that significantly improved our performance in the war. And the last one of them just died last year. Or was it earlier this year? Another piece of our history that has passed on. So we should be willing to accept what we've gained from them and the history as it has been, both the good and the bad. Hopefully you can find those as well within yourself. Mr. Toastmaster.
We get a timer or a timer's report, please.
I think I timed some of them, and I missed a few, so we're going to guess. And I've been much better with the question. I actually lived on a Native American reservation for several months and did some teaching. So I've been much better doing that than I was rubbish at this. I know, I missed this one. Anyway.
Who would have done?
Who would have known? I know, girl from England, right?
Give a speech about it, then we'll know.
I could, yeah. Mark spoke about how to live life for a minute 9, qualifies. Charlie, changing the name, Redskins, 119, qualifies. Susan and I started late, but I'm going to say a minute, you qualify. I was way late on the button about explorations. Same with Ralph. Thunder and lightning was your speech for a minute. And then Jonathan, Indian names, political things, yeah, 1 minute 23. And then Roy on the primitive society, 1 minute 7. And then Emma, will it go 1 minute 20? I'm sure it was over a minute for you. About a foot in a canoe and a foot on the shore. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you. Please go ahead and vote for best table topics. And while Mark comes around and collects your votes, I've got some Native American fun facts to share before we get into our evaluations. I mentioned in the beginning that there were about 10 million Native Americans who lived in U.S. territory before Columbus arrived. In 1930, the U.S. Census counted 332,000 Indians. Huge, huge drop-off. In 2010, U.S. Census counted 2.9 million Indians, Indian people. The largest tribal groups in the U.S. by population are Navajo, Cherokee, Choctaw, Sioux, Chippewa, Apache, Blackfeet, Iroquois, and Pueblo. An interesting story about the history of the Hard Rock, for those of you who have been to Hard Rock or like to play cards or just have fun. In 1980, while excavating to build a parking garage in downtown Tampa, Indian remains were discovered. They were exhumed and relocated 8.3 acres east of Tampa and were granted reservation status to the Seminole tribe 1 year later. Taking advantage of reservation granted, the tribe opened a museum, a smoke shop, and high-stakes bingo hall in 1982. Eventually, a 4-point Sheraton opened on the land, and slot machines and poker were added to the games. In 2000, the Seminoles announced plans to rebuild the casino as a Hard Rock casino. The Hard Rock opened in 2003 with the hotel opening the following year. Over time, the Florida legislators changed laws allowing new games to the casino, including Vegas-style slot machines and blackjack. Major expansions of the casino occurred in 2007 and 2012, making it the largest casino in Florida. So that brings us to the end of the show, and now we're going to turn it over to our Chief Evaluator. Tonight's General Evaluator has been a Toastmaster for 6 years, is serving his second term as president of our club. His goals are to become a better communicator so he can help others achieve their goals. Please help me welcome Mr. Charlie Bonalier as our General Evaluator.
As General Evaluator, my job here is to evaluate the whole meeting from start to almost the end. But we're going to get into that at the end of the evaluations. So to start with our evaluation for the night, Jaye is excited to evaluate another amazing speech by Jonathan Dunn. She will attempt to give a targeted evaluation, and like the bow and arrow of our Native Americans, will go straight for the bullseye of the great, good, and not so good. She thinks he is the best. Please help me welcome Jaye Majors.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Great to see everybody and our honored guests over here, and in particular, my friend over here, Jonathan. This speech, the title of your speech was the application of responsibility. Great title, and you certainly supported that title. This speech is from the Advanced Manual, Entertaining Speeches, project number 2, and the objective was learning to use resources for entertainment, finding other materials and resources outside of your own personal experience. That was one of the main point of the exercise here. At first, when you started out, you gave us personal experience, talking about the ex-wife. And at first, I was not sure where that was going to go. In the end, I think that could have been eliminated, but you moved then into using the book, the Wire book, which I liked, and pointing that out and showing that you had done some references there. You also, throughout, later on, gave many, many statistics that you had to do research and reach out for. So all of that was a good thing. This speech, even though it is supposed to be what people, it's an entertaining speech, but entertaining speeches are not always humorous and funny and slapstick. Entertaining speeches can be messages that are made to get your attention, which that was your goal, and that was what you did. The 30-second pause was very effective, only too long. Anytime you stop and allow people to have to think, but you didn't give us enough before that to tell us what you wanted to think about, what you wanted us to be considering and weighing. But I like the idea of using the pause, and it should be used in other things. I do believe that when you came back from the pause, you gave us some unbelievable, amazing facts that none of us knew. I would have liked to have seen you get out here and really emphasize things and scream, telling us how you felt and letting us know what your guts were to emphasize those facts. You stayed back here and you read them to us. So your 30-second pause fell flat when there was no, urgency about the facts that you gave us. And I was looking for that urgency. what should we do? What should our political leaders do? Where are you going with that? And there was none of that, no resolution in what you actually said to us. So I was really looking for a lot of that. I love the topic. I love the point. I think you actually supported the application point very well, but I'm one of those activists, and I'd like to see that serious point brought home. Maybe if you had to use fewer statistics and really nail on one or two. But loved what you did, and I would like to see you expand that to a 10-minute speech.
Thank you, Jay.
You're welcome.
For our next evaluator, Pocahontas, born Matoka, known as Monu, and later played by Gail Hill Smith, our next evaluator. At the young age of 11 in Alabama, our next evaluator was to dress in Pocahontas in an attempt to depict her historic role at Jamestown, Virginia, with the well-known historical anecdote and saving the life of an Indian captive, Englishman John Smith, in 1607. Unusual because Pocahontas was the daughter of Powhatan, the paramount chief. Ironically, some 14 years later, Gail would marry a John Smith and live on a road named Powhatan. Coincidence? That is you to decide, because it's no coincidence. She now lives in the 21st century and is here. Welcome, DTM Gail Hill Smith.
Indian is not your native language. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, Toastmasters, guests, and especially Toni. Toni is speaking from her competent communicator, her 5th time around? 8th time around, on vocal variety. And I think you all will agree with me that she did indeed meet the objectives of this speech. But did she meet them in crisis mode? Let me explain. Part of your speech was to show us and demonstrate to us your vocal variety, obviously. And it's controlled by your posture, and it's controlled by your breath. That allows you to be more expressive. It allows you to be able to emphasize points more. For example, in your expressiveness, in the opening, you mentioned the worst isn't about death. The worst can be a hospital stay, can be a surgery, it can be a fall, it can be a medical or medicine overdose. Good opportunity to have accelerated not only the speed, but also your whole tone to truly express really sincere feelings that you have about being a caregiver with your mother. What about crisis and objectives around volume, rate, pitch, and quality? Again, a good example I thought was used your mother's voice. Whiny, whiny, whiny. Perfect depiction of her voice contrasted with your calming voice as a caregiver. I would have loved to have heard your mom's whiny voice
sprinkled more throughout your presentation, because she is the topic around all the crises. And finally, Toni, I so admire your talent to be able to take such a serious topic as all that you have endured the 11 years as a caregiver for your mother, and bring it to us and share it in story form with almost lightheartedness, amusement, but still expressed where we can so empathize with what you were going through, and particularly the way you depicted the latest medical dosage. You did tell me via email that you did not have a chance to practice this. I know if you had practiced this, this would be a real winner. We'll do it again. We'd love to hear it again. Mr. General Evaluator.
I want to let everybody here know, before I continue, that I've never committed a nefarious act. I'm very Please vote for the best evaluator.
How do we know?
Timer.
Oh, the timer's report, please.
Yeah, Jaye, you spoke 3 minutes and 28, just snuck in there. And then Gail, 3 minutes and 20, so you were fine. So it was both qualified.
Thank you. Both for best evaluator and also for the most improved Toastmaster. And I have at the counter report, please.
Okay, Emma, you had 9 ahs and ums. Sarah, you had 1 on, 2 double clutches. Roy, you had 4 double clutches and 2 bridge words. Jonathan Dunn, 2 bridge words. Toni, I didn't catch anything. Stephen, you had 3 double clutches and 1 bridge word. Mark, 1 double clutch and 2 bridge words. Charlie, I didn't catch anything on you. Wow. I know. I may
told you I
not
was
heard
gonna
you well enough, but I didn't catch anything. Jaye, you had 7 ahs and ums, 2 double clutches, and 2 bridge words. Yours were really hard to hear because they are really in your sentences. And it's so quick, if I wouldn't have had my eyes closed and just listening, I wouldn't have picked it up. So that's something you might want to think about. It's just next time. And Gail, I had 1 on and 3 bridge words. And that is my report, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Susan. May we have the grammarian report, please?
So the word of the day was nefarious. I see that Charlie has used it once, Jonathan twice, Roy once that I could tell, Stephen once, and Toni, I believe you said it twice. The colorful phrases that I found, or just the rest of it, is Jonathan said they realized how important love was. I mean, yeah, I realized that now too, considering the fact that I am living apart from most of my brothers, so I get that. Roy, you said a word that I did not understand, and now I can't read my own writing, so I can't tell you what it was. Mom, another thing about love, she said, I do believe you said love is very important. table topic. And I do believe that. Is that okay? And Stephen, you used the word of the day for last week, I think. Extemporaneous. I almost knocked it on the table because I thought it was last week. Or was that the week before? I'm not sure. Toni, and I like how you said how your mother has been seeing the people that she loved most have brightened up her mood. And that is my report.
Okay, now as the general evaluator, I will give my little comments. We did start on time, thanks to Jonathan Dunn. And he did also the invocation and pledge the flag. Table topics was very well done by Stephen Morgan, and very appropriate topics, by the way. I'm glad that we have a couple guests and they participated in the table topics, and they also introduced themselves, very honorable. All the Toastmasters, guests, table topics, speakers, and evaluators all did an introduction, which was very nice to have. Thank you, Jaye, for your last segment. The speakers did a terrific job speaking. Both topics were really sensational. The evaluators did a phenomenal job, both Jaye and Gail, whoever she is. I'm going to skip because this person is such a great Toastmaster. I'm just going to skip over the timing of tonight.
Sorry. Walk in time.
She's usually on top of her game. I think that all the members and guests enjoyed the meeting tonight. And actually, thank you, sir. I think the program tonight went very well. It was timely done. Toastmaster did an excellent job, by the way. I don't know your Indian name, but I know Red Squirrel did a great job too. Now I'd like to introduce our president, Charlie Bombalier. I'd like to start with asking our guests what they thought of the meeting. And we'll start with Tamar Blaze to tell us how you enjoyed the meeting. Back, and Mr. Ralph Segali.
I really want to compliment the evaluators. I think they did a fabulous job. It speaks to the clubs having a lot of PTMs and ATMs. I think that goes with good training. I think that was pretty evident in the evaluations tonight.
Thank you. Is there any old business you need to be brought up?
Gail? I'll do it. Yeah. Okay, there's a division contest. This Sunday.
Yes.
Yes. And Mark Lockery will be representing our club.
Yay!
I encourage all of you to attend. It's at the Mayflower Retirement Community from 3 to 6 p.m. This Sunday. It would be great. It's great for contestants, just like it's nice when we have a lot of people at a meeting to listen to speeches and evaluations. You know, it's great for people to have support. Our people over there.
to have some support in the audience, so I hope some people will attend. Can I see a show of hands to see if anyone's planning to be there? Oh, good. I'll be there. Okay, that's you, babe.
Sorry, we're out
I would.
Yes, Kel.
of time. Depends on if you.
Yeah, and when Mark wins the contest.
Yes,
And
woo-hoo!
then onto division, onto the conference district in November, we have an opportunity, this club, to put an ad in the program. So hopefully, we will be able to. So Mark and anybody else, but here's information on the ad, the sizes, et cetera, for you and your executive committee to decide on.
Thank you, Gil.
Sure.
Susan, do you have next week's agenda?
I do have it somewhere. Does anybody see? Oh, it got stuck over here. Alrighty. Well, so far, if anyone on this side wants it, I'll bring it to you later. So far for next week, we have 3 speakers. We have Jaye, Charlie, and Lynn Ayers. Jonathan is our Toastmaster. And what was it, personal development? Personal development will be our theme. And I have Roy as grammarian as well. So we need to have our table topics master, our general evaluator, our evaluators, our functionaries. Those need to be filled in. I'll pass this over that way so you can look at it. And we should be set for next week. I won't be here, but no, I will be here.
Can I talk about
Wait,
the
you will?
Halloween?
Oh, Halloween, I put down for October 28th. It will be, we'll do some kind of nice Halloween meeting. Maybe we'll bring in some snacks and tell a spooky stories. Costumes, of course, there has to be costumes.
And we have a Toastmaster.
Who's the ghost master?
Trying to put my name down.
I think somebody's trying to put Steven down.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Yay, our
Somebody did
ghost
put Steven
master.
down.
Oh dear.
He's in. I saw him raise his hand. Okay, it is time for the awards for tonight. For our guest, the Tim Chastain Award is given by the president for a Toastmasters that he feels went above and beyond the call of duty or helped out more, helping people out or helping set up the room. For tonight's Tim Chastain Award, please welcome up front Mark Lockery. For our most improved award, we have 2 because of the tie.
That's great, great tie.
Gotta break it?
Oh, well, he gave me 2 blank awards, so I just put a name on it too.
That's good.
Whatever.
I didn't mean to.
Yes.
All right, the most improved award goes to Emma Hancock.
Well, who would have won the other one, just out of curiosity?
You can still have it.
You can give it up.
Mr. Stephen Morgan. For our Best Evaluator Award, Jaye Mayer. For Best Table Topics Award, Marty Bombalier. And for our Best Speaker Award, Mr. Jonathan Dunn. Nice socks.
Those are my speaking socks.
Toastmasters and welcome guests.